Good evening. This is the February 27th, 2019 meeting of the Finance Committee, Town of Auburn. It's 7 o'clock. We're starting on time tonight. Our agenda for the evening, we are going to review, vote on some transfers. We're going to have an overview of the 2020 budget from the town CFO. We're also, if time allows, going to review some of the budgets that would include moderator, selectmen, town manager, finance committee, human resources, and the finance department. In addition, we're going to have a discussion and potential vote on debt management policy as recommended by the CFO and as presented to the Board of Selectmen in a prior meeting. We're also going to have a discussion from the Assistant Fire Chief Glenn Johnson here on the SAFER grant application. That was also discussed with the Board of Selectmen previously. We've got minutes and then we'll adjourn. I'm actually going to take the agenda a little out of order, and the first thing we're going to do is go through some transfer requests from DDIS Director Darlene Coyle, and then we're going to go right to the SAFER grant discussion. So, Darlene, thanks for coming tonight.
Good evening.
We've got 2 pages of transfers, 3 pages, excuse me. I'm just going to read through these, and I'll open it up for questions, and if there's anything that needs to be filled in by you. So the
Great,
first
thank you.
transfer, this is a transfer. This is going to kennel maintenance. Amount requested $370. This is from the vaccinations account. There's almost $671 left in that account. This is expenses for kennel needs. I'll open it up to any questions.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next transfer, multiple transfers here. Excuse me. This is a transfer of $2.55 to the clerical account from miscellaneous supplies. This is an overdrawn account, and the salary comes out every 3 accounts. Do we have any questions on this monumental transfer?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. And, well, we're outdoing ourselves here. The next transfer is for 21 cents. This is to the CMPRC assessment. This is for calculations for service made by the CMRPC. This is coming from miscellaneous supplies, and before there's a motion, Darlene, just to be, part of the fun here, CMRPC is the...
Sure, that's the Central Mass Planning Regional Committee, and they assess the town each year for the services they provide. So it's based on a calculation that is similar to all of the cities and towns across the state. And I'm sorry for the 21 cents. It's just a matter of rounding up. So when they send the exact amount,
Next
I
year
rounded
we'll
down
round
instead of up.
Thank you very much. I'll accept the motion now.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last transfer under Darlene's world, this is a salary reserve transfer. This is for the planner salary. Amount requested is $3,963.95. Reason for the shortage: funds required as a result of resignation, rehire, and reallocation of salary from municipal aggregation. I'll flip this to either Darlene or Ed just to kind of backfill us in here.
So our previous town planner, Matt Benoit, resigned from the position of town planner. He was also our energy manager. His salary drew not on a tax levy, but on energy manager. So when he converted over to energy manager, we had to carve that amount out. And the town planner's starting salary was equivalent to what the previous town planner was getting, but the previous town planner had an allocation of muni ag money. So given that it's short, we made the adjustment in the budget that's before you tonight. This just gets us through June 30th.
I assume the salary reserve account is doing well right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I can give you...
That's all right, Ed. Any questions?
Motion to approve?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eileen. Nice to see you tonight.
Same here.
All right, we're going to cut away from the transfers, and we have Assistant Chief Glenn Johnson, who's pinch hitting for Chief Coleman tonight, last second. This is just a discussion on the SAFER grant application. Once again, this was also presented to the Board of Selectmen. We will actually be voting on this, not tonight. I know we're a little shorthanded. Eddie, we're hoping to get the fire budget in next week.
Yes.
There is a deadline on this. We've looked at this SAFER grant last year. It's come back and available to us in a much different and smaller form than last year. So, Glenn, if you want to just fill us in on this and what we're trying to accomplish with it. And I will say, the chief did a nice job with his presentation on that the other night.
Good evening, everyone. I do have some handouts that I'll pass around so that you can follow. Ultimately, what we're looking to do with the SAFER grant is bring our staffing from currently 8 to 9, which would bring our minimum to 7. This is something that we've been talking about for a long time. The chief has addressed it in some letters to town management since 2013. And currently, town management has worked with us on developing a plan to help us get to that level. And we have a position in this next budget coming up that's a half-year position, which will bring 3 of the groups to 7, leaving us one more position in the future to try to bring us up to 9 with a minimum of 7. So we do have 2 groups currently with 9 and 2 groups currently with 8. But as of January 2020, we'll have 3 groups of 9 and 1 group of 8. So ultimately, that's what we're looking to do. In this grant, why not take advantage of the federal government's ability to give us money towards those positions? So one position is already budgeted, and this grant is for 2 people, so it would pay for the position that's already budgeted, and then it would add that 1 extra person that we're looking for in the future, so we could get it all together now. Ultimately, if you follow down on the lines, as we said, the grant request is for 2 firefighters, and the government over 3 years gives you a percentage. So the first year, the feds would pay 75%. The second year, they pay 50%, and then they pay 25% in year 3. And the town share increases over those 3 years, and then year 4, that's when the town would own the position if they choose to.
Okay, I'll open it up to any questions. Once again, we're not going to take a vote on this tonight. This will be folded into the budget discussion. So if I heard correctly, then a half of this is already baked into our proposed budget that we'll be seeing in the near future.
Correct. So in the end, if you look at it, the 3-year grant period, it's $557,967. If it's awarded, the town overall would save the $275,145, which is good.
Okay. Good, and I know that the Board of Selectmen also wanted a confirmation and got it from the chief that this is salary and estimated benefits. How would the benefits part work, Ed? I mean, every person that's a municipal employee has different benefit needs.
Right.
And
This assumes a family plan for each one of those positions, so it's on the high side. We use roughly 30%. Now, a family plan, in today's dollars, with the base pay, including retirement, Medicare, and other costs, is more like 38%. So we figured 30% would be a fair average for one that may select a family plan and one that may select a single plan.
Okay. And this wouldn't cover turnout gear, the other stuff that's necessary, correct?
That is correct, it would not.
So there are some other costs. And I'm in favor of that, of this, and I think the idea was we were looking at maybe a 3 to 5 year window to hopefully get there. This just gets us there a little quicker with some government help, at least until year 4. Okay, that's fine. Any other questions?
Just, so the grant itself is only for new positions, or is it to fund, would it
It's for new positions.
New positions.
Yep, the goal is ultimately to have safer staffing ratios.
That's, what is the, is that, it has to be a government acronym, what is the safer?
It's staffing, adequate staffing is what it's for fire and emergency response.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, there was an acronym, I forget.
Yeah, staffing adequately for fire and emergency
Yeah,
response.
emergency response, okay. Ann?
Yeah, question, so it's, you would apply for the grant, and then the money would get paid out over 3 years if it was awarded? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes,
By
each,
just once, right?
yep, we apply just once, and then from there, the town gets assessed.
How are the, what's the outlook for the town for getting the grant?
So each year, it's a little bit different, because it is a national pool, and they don't just look at each department, they look at the pool of money.
Yeah.
So it's however millions of dollars they have for it, and then when you apply, they look at each grant, they rate each grant, and then they award them. So, you know, we could get these 2 positions, and then another community could get 50 positions, depending on what they were asking for, if it was a larger city. So it is a very competitive grant. As you know, last year, we went for a grant, a safer grant, and from there, we were able to get some very good feedback from that grant. So I think this year, we're staying positive. If we are able to apply for it, we're hoping to get it.
Okay, thank you.
Kev?
So where does, just got the book tonight, so where does this meet with the budget of next week? Is this counting new requested positions, or how is this integrating, are we into the budget for?
Sure. So right now, this is not in the budget. We do have the half position in the budget in January, but we have not added any extra people in there for the budget based on this.
For the full year.
Yeah, for the full year.
Okay, so you, okay.
Even if we apply for the grant, the position still wouldn't start till January, as we already have the half position, as we learned from last year's grant process.
And based upon last year, I believe the award is made sometime over the summer.
Yes.
So we would have to make a fall town meeting adjustment to fold those into the budget if in fact it is approved.
Yes, they award them on Fridays over multiple weeks, and then what would happen is, if all the money was dried out and we didn't get an award, and another community decided not to take their grant, that opens up that pool of money, so then we may have a shot at getting it, but down the road, that's how it works. It's multiple weeks on Fridays, is when you're told over the summer.
Maybe this is, again, for discussion next week, but how does this plan into your staffing and overtime for, if you're talking your groups, some of your groups are going to go up to 9, which with the minimum being 7, you're less apt to have to go into overtime mode, right? Because you'll have
Correct.
two extras in theory.
Right, so the plan is, right now, our minimum 6, the plan would be to go to 7. We do have 2 groups already at 9. However, the 2 firefighters that are on there are in the middle of training, so we're not really counting them yet. They're still going through all their training processes, and the plan would be to get the other 2 groups to 9, and then have those people trained if they need to be trained, depending on who we get. And then from there, the minimum would be 7 at all times, and that would help alleviate overtime, because we wouldn't be looking to
So you would go
order
to 7 when all the groups are at 9, or you plan to go
all the
7?
groups are at 9, we'd be looking to have the staffing at 7 all the time on the groups.
Currently, it'll stay at 6 until you get to that full staffing level. Okay.
Makes sense. Yeah. Like I said, it was a great discussion. I caught it on TV from Monday from the chief on this. And he also made it sound like there's also a chance that only one additional firefighter gets added. So there's a wide range of things that may happen with this. The best case, obviously, is it gets accepted, we move forward, we make an adjustment for the fall town meeting, depending on the timing, and we just move forward as we adjust a lot of things in the fall. Worst case is, we've got a new employee that's coming on January 1st, 2020, and we've already got it in the budget. And where we're doing only one-year budgets, then we just probably looking at this again next winter. Okay, good. Any other questions? Ed? We miss anything on this, Ed? We miss anything on this?
All set.
Julie?
No, I think, actually, I just want to say thanks to the deputy chief for saying this, explain one quick thing. We have been at minimum staffing levels now for the last 18 years.
Yeah.
And our call volume over that period has gone up dramatically. I'm going to get it wrong, I'm not as up on those numbers as the chief was the other night, but I believe the call volume went
It's
from...
over 400% over the past 20-something years. The call volume has gone up. Last year, it was like 3.6, I believe. Yeah, 3.6.
So that's why town administration has been working with the fire department to come up with a long-term plan and a long-term strategy to address their needs. We understand we can't do it all at once. We've been trying to do it when we can do it. When we can't, we don't. And when we need to start it in January, we wait and start it in January. But we have to have a long-term plan. We can't just be looking at this on a year-to-year basis because it's not going to get us where we need to be. We've got to make sure that we have the proper staffing. Those numbers are just going up. The call volume's not going to go down. It's just going to increase. So we've really got to address that minimum staffing
Yeah,
level.
and 36% of our calls are generally multiple calls, so we have more than one call going on, and trying to get 6 people to different spots is very, very difficult.
Yeah, and that's what concerns me, and I'm on, I observe Facebook a little, not really on it, but Auburn, the Mass Auburn Fire, whatever, and you see about certain calls, multiple calls, that kind of thing going on, and I know our staffing has been pretty stagnant for a while the call's going up. We're going to have a burnout issue if we don't already, and we're certainly, to me, that will run right into a safety issue. And you guys get really expensive when you get hurt, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but it's expensive for the town. Plus, we lose some good people and good Auburn people, and nobody wants to see anyone get hurt. Your job's tough enough. So I'm looking forward to the budget next week. Will you be coming too? Is he going to drag you up here?
I plan on probably trying to come.
All right, that's too bad. All right, that's fine. Any other questions? Once again, this is just for discussion, so we can take a vote. I believe, okay, it says here, we've got to apply for this by March 22nd, I guess, or
Yeah,
somewhere
by
around there. And I believe the Board of Selectmen was also looking for some direction from us on this before they vote on it. So they're waiting on us also on this, so that's why I want to get their budget in as soon as possible, see if there's any more questions, and then move forward with it.
Quickly,
Yep.
just with federal grants, are there any concerns, are there any drawbacks? I know with the old COPS grants, you had those positions were locked in, but they're not necessarily funded on, in a couple of years out, and those positions were tied, if staffing had to be scaled back due to budgetary issues. Are there any concerns? So sometimes the federal grants have a lot of requirements behind.
There are no strings attached here, as I understand it, and I think you alluded to it earlier in your comments. We're not bound to keep these 2 individuals once the federal money dries up. We believe at that point in time, we will have the resources to maintain those 2 individuals. No reason to believe that we would let them go, because quite honestly, that wouldn't be in the best interest of the town to bring 2 on only to release them. So we believe that we can make this commitment, and we can continue this in year 4 once the federal money dries.
And also, Kevin, I think you were asking if the government wouldn't support it, let's say in year 2, once they give us the grant, the money's there for the whole entire time.
Good. Glenn, thanks for your time. Appreciate you coming up.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
All right, take care.
Some emergency declaration, and maybe they're freezing. So,
All right, let's, why don't we switch back to the transfers that we have in front of us. Just a note, we had some verbal transfers that I approved back in about 5 weeks ago for the fire department. We're going to hold them till Chief Coleman is back in next week and go over those. I spoke with the CFO about it, so that's I guess, okay to do. All right, so let's move right along to transfers. I have in front of me a cemetery division under DPW transfer. Amount requested $2,149 going to the clerical account from wages full-time. There's plenty of money in there. Transfer will eliminate a deficit in the account mid-year, it seems kind of strange we have a deficit is,
The original budget, there was a misrepresentation of the actual pay for this clerical position. It is a split position, and it was just underestimated.
okay.
Motion to approve?
Second. I assume these miscalculations, whatever they are being addressed or were addressed in the current budget? Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Thank you. Okay. We have a reserve account transfer under clerical salary, DPW Cemetery Division. Is this related, Ed?
Yes.
Okay. And this is for $2,100.51. Do I have a motion on this?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. For the Human Resources, amount requested $250. This is going to OPEB actuarial for the OPEB report coming from the unemployment account. It's nice to see a nice round dollar of $25,000. Please tell me that means we haven't touched that account, right, Ed? Ed?
Oh, no, we've touched it. There is a portion encumbered, but not obligated, so we just tie up a sum of money up front.
Great.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you. A reserve account transfer, this is under legal to the negotiator account. Amount requested $10,000. Present balance is $4,403.62 from the town manager. Ed, I know this is, can you give us anything at all on this in terms of what this is relating to?
So this is a personnel matter that is currently in arbitration. It's been, we needed legal support, I think, but it's about a year and a half now. And the case was heard, briefs were filed, and now it's currently before the arbitrator. So I think the arbitrator has 90 days to make a decision. We spent a lot of money on this matter, and hopefully it's coming to a conclusion now. As a result of that, we have expended all of the negotiators' appropriation. We're currently $4,000 in the hole. This, and there's another transfer, hopefully will get us through a good portion of the remaining of the fiscal year, provided there are no additional costs relative to this case. But other matters do arise from time to time where we need legal counsel, especially now that we're in negotiations. Not that we haven't used them yet, but there may be from time to time a requirement for us to at least consult with the attorney relative to what we are negotiating at the table.
Okay, fine. Any questions? We do have a second transfer request of just under $10,000. We'll see after this one.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you. So the other part of this transfer, this is a transfer from special litigation. We're clearing that account out. $9,959.26 to the negotiator account. As Ed had discussed, it is for the same use, same issue.
Motion to recommend?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you. And the last transfer we'll be looking at tonight, this is under general services. Amount requested $5,000 to equipment maintenance. This is to cover the cost of repairs for a leaking heating pipe and for alarm system repairs in Town Hall and in the Merriam Building. This is coming from the gas and oil account that at this time is just over $100,000 in the account.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you. Okay, so we'll hold the verbal approvals. That's it for transfers. Our next items.
Mr. Chairman, just relative to the
Sure.
Can I make a statement relative to the verbal approvals?
Yep.
So we had, I think, there was some concern, or at least I had some concern relative to the fire department transfers, and if their budget is going to come up next week, would it be possible to request to see some of their other transfers that they've requested over the last year? It seems like, if my memory serves me correctly, the last couple of years, we have had some transfers from the fire department requested. Is it possible to get copies of what we would have had for the last?
Or a summary of some kind?
Summary of some sort, just to see, I don't necessarily need a copy of
If
each
it
one.
would be helpful, I can run a fire department status report that will show you all the transfers in total during the entire fiscal year.
That would be great.
Or, I don't know if you want to drill down any deeper, or if that would,
No, I think a summary of just, what, how much we've seen in
Okay.
terms of transfers that have not been reflected in their initial budget that they've needed to request over the course of last year.
I will run that report and email it to each one of you tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine. And that's exactly what we'll be talking about next week.
Okay. I just figured if we had a
there
little
was-
little bit of a broader view as opposed to
Oh, yeah,
relying on
absolutely.
memory.
There's enough memory there, that's for sure, certainly on my part.
So just so I'm clear, I'm going to give you a report for FY18. We're in 19 now.
Yep.
I think the only transfers that have come before you this year are the verbal ones. So you want a snapshot of last year, correct?
please.
Okay.
As we remember, there were multiple significant amount of transfers done in the last 60 days of the fiscal year, relative, I think, to some repairs and other stuff they were doing. And I think that's probably what you're alluding to.
Yes.
Okay. Yep, that's a very good idea. Ed, I'm actually going to give you a choice here if you want to do an overview of the budget, or do you want to talk about the debt management policy first? Up to you.
Why don't we go in order of the
Sure.
agenda? So,
Let's do the budget then.
In terms of the budget.
Thank you.
So tonight, we are officially giving you the budget. I don't know if anyone picked up their budget in advance of tonight, but in summary form, and I know there have been some slight changes. Did they have the changes to the debt and interest? Yeah. Okay, but I don't think it's reflected in the summary. So you have new pages for debt and interest as a result of the bond issue we just went out on. We were using an estimate when we first put together the budget. We now know what our obligation is based upon the bonds that were just signed by the board the other night. Given that, we had a slight change bottom line of about $7,000 to the good. So I believe your budget summary shows a excess of $1,623. It's now $8,206 and change.
I don't think we have a budget somewhere in here.
This is the one from this selectmen's meeting, because I don't have it
The normal 7-page, it should be in the front of the book? No?
on. This is the one from the selectmen's meeting that
Yes.
I was going to say.
We don't have it yet. Okay. Fresh, not quite off the presses yet. All right.
I apologize, I thought the summary was in the cover of your, we'll get that to you. Anyway, in summary, the budget relies, our recommendation currently utilizes 100% of 2.5. Now, I want to say that since 2009, we haven't used 100% of 2.5. In fact, we've used much less. We've built up excess levy to $5.3 million. And we saved the taxpayers approximately $28.5 million over that 10-year period. We expect, in the end, when we go to fall, we won't be utilizing all of 2.5. There are some needs that we have not met in this recommendation, primarily in the area of stormwater management. There are federal mandates that require compliance in stormwater, but we do have a recommendation for a full-time engineer that will be dedicated strictly to stormwater. So that goes a long way. I think some of the improvements, and Mr. Coyle can touch upon this when when he comes in for his budget, he's going to tell you that there are improvements that need to be made to our infrastructure, such as piping, such as outflows, things of that nature that we have to address as part of our permit. Those things are not going away. We're going to have to put a priority on that and start directing dollars towards that effort. Bill honestly believes that, you know, through the engineer, it will give that engineer some time to collect all of the things that need to be done. There's sampling that needs to be done. There are a number of things that are going to keep this engineer busy that will determine what our level of funding will need to be to meet those requirements. That's something we can get into a little deeper. This budget does provide for 13 new positions, 9 in the school department. I had a footnote here that didn't print out. We have 2 positions in solid waste, one for a recycling coordinator and another one for a clerical support for part-time, 19 hours for solid waste as well. We have a part-time position that's shared between DPW and SOAR Enterprise, and
We have to put in for a full-time veterans agent position. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 115, communities over 12,000 population are required to have a full-time veterans agent. Auburn and other communities have always been grandfathered because our veterans agent had been hired prior to that. That veterans agent is no longer with the town as an employee. So once that employee left the employee of the town is required to fulfill the mandates under Chapter 115. The good news is we knew ultimately this would be coming, and 3 years ago, we joined a veterans district with 3 other communities. So we are in a district with Charlton, Southbridge, and Oxford. So they take the combined population of the 4 communities in the aggregate and then use a formula and tell us how many people we need to have in these positions. We need 1 full-time veterans director, 1 full-time veterans agent, and 1 full-time administrative assistant. In the district, we already have 2 of those positions. So now we will be sharing this position with another community. Presumably, we are working with that other, the 4th community, to see if they're willing to share this position. We're required to do it anyway. So, and that community will be as soon as their veterans agent retires. So we're trying to look ahead and see if we can coordinate sharing that position now rather than waiting another year. But either way, we're mandated to fund a full-time position.
And it also includes, as Deputy Chief Johnson said, it folds in 1 new position in fire beginning January 1. So I believe that equals our 13 positions, 9 of which are in school. The school budget recommendation came in at 4.59. We recommended something less than that. The school committee voted something less than they originally submitted as a result of discussions we had with the superintendent and the school business manager and the assistant superintendent. We made a recommendation of 4.2%. They understand that. They are asking that we consider revisiting the budget if in fact Chapter 70 funds come in greater than what we have built into the budget. So we do have the governor's revenue built into the budget. Certainly, we expect that may change. We don't expect it to get any worse than what it is, but there could be the possibility that there may be some improvement to the revenue side on the cherry sheet items.
What's the dollar value difference in the 4.2 versus the 4.59% approximately?
Actually, we made a recommendation of 4.25. They went back and actually cut it a little more, but at 4.25, it was 80 some odd $1,000, between 4.25 and the original budget. So my guess is that it's
Somewhere around 100.
somewhere between
Just under
$90,000 and $100,000. We did remain conservative, as we always do on new growth, in the event we don't reach our 5-year average. We're hopeful that we'll get more than the $450,000. But that's a consideration we always make at the fall town meeting.
What's the group insurance estimate, Ed? Is it 8%?
So
8%
in this
year?
budget, it's built in at 8.5% overall. We won't know probably until late April what that final number is going to be. I can tell you our reinsurance on our stop loss won't be known until sometime in late May or June, and that's a big piece of the health insurance. So I think we'll have a better idea the end of April about where we'll be without knowing the stop loss.
Do we have a Worcester County retirement number yet?
Worcester County retirement number is known. It does account for a early payment of July 1, which saves us about $30-some-odd thousand. So the discount has already been removed off that assessment. This budget does rely on an increase in trash fees. It's something we're examining now. I can tell you that we're operating at a loss, that the general fund is subsidizing trash. Those costs have been increasing as our fees remain constant. I think the last increase was probably 4 years ago. Those costs are only going up. So we'd like to examine that. I want to dissect it and treat it as though it was an enterprise fund for full recovery costs. I'm working with DDIS, Darlene Coyle, and we'll be working with the Solid Waste Committee to bring that in, to make a determination as to what would be fair and equitable.
Where are we in contract? How many years are we into?
So our contract expires a year from this coming June 30th, so we have about a year and 5 months left. So that's going to be another, I don't know where those costs are going to go. Certainly the recyclables are taken away at no cost to us now. I don't know whether that's going to change or not. Certainly the market is changing. On recent, no one wants them anymore. It's hard to get rid of. So I don't know how that's going to impact future contracts, but certainly that's something that we're concerned about.
Obviously, we've been in union negotiations, so I assume where there's a sum of money in the salary reserve.
Yes.
And that's how we've traditionally approached this when that's come up, so there's a sum of money in there. Once again, I haven't opened this yet to see on there with an estimated dollar amounts. Okay. All right. Is there an expectation you'd be close to getting that done May, June, or at least by the fall town meeting?
The negotiations, we're hoping to get, believe me, we're hoping we can get this thing wrapped up by June 30th, but I can't guarantee it. I think we've made some positive movement on a number of them. We're at the table at least 3 times a week and expect to be for the next 2 months anyway. We're scheduled out. Whether or not we can settle some of these prior to that, I don't know. It's too early to say, but we remain hopeful that we can do that, because it brings some certainty to the budget once we're able to nail down some of those negotiations.
Absolutely. Okay. Any other questions or comments on it? Kev?
Just briefly, overall health, you mentioned new growth. I mean, how is the town in general? You see, Reliant just put a ton of money into that. Obviously that was a nice reuse for that space that had been vacant. how are we doing overall in terms of revenue coming in and?
So we did, well, this year for 19 and 18, we received a large sum of money for a permit fee for the construction down at Reliant. That was a one-time bump of about $300,000. Even though our actuals reflect that, we backed it out because we know we're not going to get that in FY19. So there are certain things that we can't count on, even though the actuals show that, or there may be an expectation that we can go higher than we normally do. That's just not good financial practice. So we back things like that out. In terms of new growth that may come on the books for FY20, Reliant is one of them. And Prime-Mode is another one. So there is some growth out there. The residential permits seem to be active, but I couldn't tell you what that translates to in growth. But I can tell
Even
you,
without an accounting figure, what's the general feel? We've had the economic development, we've had Shannon in place for now over a year, right?
Just about a year.
A year. I mean, what's her feeling when she, goes to these chamber meetings and, are people confident to bring business into town? I mean, Reliant came here, were they confident to stay and not look elsewhere, or?
I think if I can jump in, we just had our bond rating with Standard & Poor's, and one of their ratings remarks to us were that Auburn had a very strong economic outlook. They looked at the building permit history, they looked at the extensive report we put together on all of the businesses that are either expanding, locating here, proposed to do that, or planning to do it in the future, or just completing their projects. So it was about a 10-page, just alone, 10 pages of growth that they see in the community. So Standard & Poor's made a comment that the economy was very strong and that they didn't see in the immediate future that would be changing at all. They also made a comment that the mall, while it's our largest employer, it's still a very small share of the overall commercial industrial. So they felt that it protected the town from over-reliance on one specific industry, especially in an economy where you want to be diversified. You don't want it all in one. So I think Shannon's absolutely she's working with a lot of businesses, a lot of companies, a lot of developers, getting a lot of calls from real estate agents. We're not seeing a lot of vacancies as we had a few years ago. Those who have been, and when they are vacant, they go pretty quickly. Big Lots went in quickly. We also have a really nice company moving in here, should be breaking, ribbon cutting in about a week, and Carl Storrs, I say a week, I'm sorry, a month. Carl Storrs Company, they're headquartered, I believe their national headquarters is in Charlton, but they are a medical instrumentation company. They're moving their distribution and warehousing here to Millbury Street, and they're taking 200,000 square feet of space, and they're renovating it, so that will be coming back online as well. They're bringing in about 160 employees and then hiring about another additional 40 or 50 employees. So that's going to be a huge economic impact on the town.
Camden facility?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That's
So-
been underutilized since,
Exactly.
I want to say, the early 80s.
And that's a huge space, and it's an unusual space because of all the loading docks. So having a company like Carl Storrs, a real solid community partner coming into the town, is excellent for us. We're very excited. We've gone out and met with them. We've spoken to their employees. They've asked us questions about the retail, the commercial. They want to be immersed in the community here. They want to use our services. They want to go to our local businesses. So I think it's going to be great for the town. So we are seeing some really positive economic development news. Also, just I've mentioned the Drury Square area. We're moving forward on a lot of different initiatives in Drury Square, setting the ground for future development. That's a long-term, 5, 10, 15-year out to really revitalize that whole area. But piece by piece, we're putting things together. We just got a grant for wayfinding and branding, putting together logos and wayfinding. We also are working on the Drury Square bylaw, which will be going to the town meeting in May, and that's been a large process. And then it's my understanding that the billboards are moving along and should be installed, and when they are installed, we will get a donation from the company as well. So I think on an economic development perspective, we have, I always want to say we're cautiously optimistic, but optimistic because the picture is looking good. We did, as Ed mentioned, the Reliance going to bring more revenues in for this year as far as valuation, because the valuations were based on the state it was in January of a year ago, and that was in demolition. So you were looking at pretty much a property that had been devalued because it was empty and it was being demolished. So anything over and above that since then should add to the valuation. And the other piece is that the company has now gone from a not-for-profit to a for-profit company. So that will also increase our personal property tax revenues substantially.
The continuing development of Duddy's Little Empire up there on Route 20.
Yes.
I got to assume that's not been fully valued yet either. I know they've been in continued
Right,
construction.
it's, the valuation's always based on the January prior to the current fiscal year that you're in. So whenever a project started anytime after January, you don't capture that value to the following year. The project is moving along as far as you recall, we had gone to town meeting to get approvals based on a planning board approval for a so-called land swap. And that got passed through the legislature on the last day in December. The governor signed that into law. So we are working with our attorney and their attorney to follow the steps that we have to follow under Mass General Law to ensure that we value the properties and then ultimately swap them. So that will also benefit not just that project, the Diamond Project, but will benefit the town, because Faith Ave will then be a smaller area for DPW to maintain. It will be laid out better. So we'll be moving forward on that soon, too.
That's good.
And I should mention, while we're on economic development, if I can, just the two schools. We get a lot of questions about the two schools. From the beginning, I think we've said that those are long-term projects, but there is always an end in sight in them. Both projects are under agreement with Penrose Development. Penrose has been great to work with. They've been very actively pursuing the state tax credits at all levels. The Mary D. Stone School was the state will only do one project at a time as far as funding, and we knew that. We were going to have to stagger the two projects. So Mary D. Stone School was just submitted for another round of tax credit financing for low-income housing tax credits from DHCD, and an opportunity to apply for the historic tax credits. So those two applications are pending right now at the state, and we're working very hard with Penrose to hopefully get those funded soon. Unfortunately, with the state, we all know that these housing programs, they will not fund a project the first time in, and oftentimes they won't fund it the second time. Usually it's funded on the third time. You just have to get in that pipeline and wait your turn. So Penrose is doing a great job. They've done some great architectural and design work, and the state is coming out next Wednesday to take a look at the building and walk around. So we're optimistic. I don't know that they will get their funding this particular round, but the good news is it is moving forward in the pipeline process.
Kevin, you got your long answer on revenues. All good.
See what happens when I come?
No, that's fine. Any other general questions on the budget? Obviously, we'll have Eddie's attention for the next 7 or 8 weeks on all things budget.
What's your pleasure for lining up departments, or for next week, or how do you want to handle that?
I'll just assume everybody's going to be here next week, so certainly fire, as discussed. After that, have you got any sort of feedback from department directors in terms of their availability?
We have no restrictions. I haven't received any. We did put the word out there at a department heads meeting that if a Wednesday was problematic for a department head, please let us know in advance so we can convey that to you and try to work around that. I haven't heard of any problems, so however you want to line them up, we can.
Well, maybe we get police and fire down next week then. I think that'd be a good idea. I think every time we brought in DPW early, it snowed, so let's cut those guys a little bit of a break anyways. And we'll do some talking on that and try to figure it
Okay.
out, and maybe we can, somewhere behind the scenes, find out if people are away, that kind of stuff. I'm going to have a bad week in April where I won't be available, and I'd like to work around that, too. I don't like missing any parts of this, and we can always work in the CIP, which I'm sure is finalized, right? So we can
The
always...
CIP is finalized. All I ask is when they come in, that we address their piece of the CIP, so we don't have to call them back in at a later date, I think.
Thank you. And you'll have to remind me again on that. Doing this, what, 20 years now? Ouch. Okay. Great. Thanks for the quick overview. Next week, we'll have those sheets. Yeah. And the budget summary sheets, Sharon, they'll be finalized for next week? Good. Great. Okay, so there's our overview. Next item, we've got several smaller budgets plus the finance department. And I'll leave it up to you. I know, Kevin, I think you'd grabbed your book earlier today or yesterday or something like that. You've had your book?
No,
or
I
not?
only
All
tried to.
right. Do we want to go over these budgets now, or did you want to wait on them? Because I know there's a couple of them that are real small. In the finance department, we've got Ed here anyways to go over them. So did we want to do that? It's about 10 minutes of 8, if I'm reading that correctly, and then we can go over the debt policy. Does that work for everybody? Okay, that's fine. Now let's go right to the moderator budget. I'm going to assume we don't have any CIP for the moderator this year, Ed?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, that's
thank you.
good. All right. The moderator budget for, this would be fiscal '20, wow, we're in fiscal '20, is flat. It's been flat for the last at least half a decade at $296. Do we have a motion on this?
Motion to recommend.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you. Next, we have the selectmen. The selectmen budget for 2020 is recommended at $11,287. This is no change from the prior year appropriation.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you. And the town manager. The executive office of the town manager. For 2020, the recommended budget in total is $380,683. This is a 2.13% increase over the prior year appropriation. Any questions on this, seeing how we have the town manager here? Guest appearance? I believe, let's see.
Can you refresh me? What are professional services again? We have $20,000 in there.
So, and Ed can jump in. For instance, last year, we used funds out of professional services for a couple of studies. We did, one was a job description study, one was a senior center strategic plan study. Other things come up that we need.
Yeah, and just, it's a catch-all for a number of professional services, quite
Okay.
honestly, for appraisals, for things of that
Appraisals, yeah.
nature.
Thanks.
In the administrative side, there's $500 added to advertising, which I know that gets all over the board, and we're probably underfunding there, right? Probably.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on this? This is a 2.13% increase over prior year.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Thank you. Let's see. Finance Committee,
The pizza line item didn't make the cutting.
didn't make it again. But we're still getting more than the moderator, so let's fall back on that anyways. I do keep asking. Flat funded budget at $815 for 2020.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so voted. Sharon, we got to start paying you off a little better. Work on that. Human Resources is the next budget.
No, not reserve?
No, we're going to hold off on reserve. I'm just going on our list here. We
Oh,
get a little
okay.
out of order. In fact, the reserve, we usually take care of somewhere near the end of the process. Human Resources, the amount requested for 2020 is $74,232. That represents a 2.60% increase from prior year.
Motion to recommend?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you. And our last budget we're scheduled to look at tonight is the Finance Department.
It's finance. Let me see.
There it is.
Mr. Chairman, one comment. The bylaw employees are provided a 2% increase. The union employees are all in the reserve account, okay?
So this is multiple divisions in here, and what I've done in the past, I'm going to modify a little bit. I usually have the department director, in this case the CFO, give a brief overview. I'm not going to allow him the microphone tonight. We'll go right to the numbers and let him just respond to a series of very aggressive questions. Okay. So under the Finance Department, the division called Accountant, amount requested for this division is $231,933. This is approximately just over $26,000 increase from the fiscal year 19 appropriation. Do we have any questions on this division? Yeah, Kev?
Just to clarify the clerical,
So this year, we had a new hire that was split between the treasurer collector's office and our office that we talked about several times as part of an overall priority. We lost a half a position several years ago, and it's really put a hardship on our office just to stay afloat. This position is critical. It does benefit the town because we're able to use this individual as a swing person between my office and the collector's office. So if the collector's office is experiencing some high volume because of billing or whatever, we give them this individual whenever they need it. Conversely, if we need the individual because of a demand that is placed on our office, the individual is loaned to our office. Otherwise, it's normally a 50-50 split, so it gives us a lot of flexibility to address the need when it arises.
Any other questions on the Accountant division? Ed, your contract does not work like Julie's, correct? I know you're a multi-year,
Mine's multi-year as well.
it is multi-year. Does that work on a January 1st? Also, I know yours
Mine's-
does.
Yeah, it does.
I think it does.
Yes, it
I think it
does.
was mine.
Glad I asked. It is multi-year, okay. Thank you, I wasn't sure on that. The Assessor Division, amount requested $191,809. That's just over a $5,000 increase from the fiscal 19 appropriation.
Question?
Ann?
Yeah, I have a question on update valuations. That number got basically doubled. Could you address that? Under finance assessor.
So I think the update evaluation, let's see.
Isn't that the 3-year requirement?
Yeah, there's new requirements under a new reform. Now puts us on a 5-year cycle, but I think this allows for valuations of personal property that's done by RCI. It's an outside firm. That adjustment was made in FY19, so it's really level funded from the current fiscal year.
Thank you.
Bless you. Let's see. Any other questions on the Assessor Division? Okay. So the Treasurer Collector Division, amount requested is $236,986. and that represents, that's flat, it's actually down almost $1,000 from the 2019 appropriation. That's a little unusual, Ed.
We had 2 retirements, and so the individuals we hired came in at a lower rate of
Scale.
pay because of the experience and the
Any other questions on the treasurer-collector division? Okay, overall, the total finance department requested appropriation for 2020 is $660,728, and that represents a 4.96% increase over the prior year appropriation.
Motion to recommend.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you. All right. Good, thanks, Ed. All right, so that takes care of the budgets we were planning to look at tonight. Our next item on the agenda is a discussion, and I would like to have a vote tonight on the debt management policy. Ed, I had reached out to you with some questions. I know we're missing a couple of members tonight on this, so not sure it is the best idea to vote on it. I just didn't expect us to be this short-staffed on it. Did anyone else reach out to you, Kim or
No, and,
Trevor?
no, the answer is no, no one has. We can have a discussion about this tonight. You could choose to hold it, and you could take, you could decide to hold a vote till next week if you so choose,
Yeah, well,
because the Board of Selectmen's not meeting till after your next meeting.
all right, then I'm just going to add a comment and a very brief comment, and I'll also try to keep it brief next week on it. When you and I had discussed on a couple of things on there, what came out of it is I had a thought on this, and I think you had mentioned that it looks like we wouldn't get to $2 million for another 7 to 9 years in terms of what we'd be raising out of our, what are we calling it, our, where we're putting aside our CIP at 1/4%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just, I'm cutting right to the chase on this. Overall, I'm totally in favor of this policy, and I know we have to get back to the Board of Selectmen on this when we do. I like the idea of having a ceiling of $2 million on this, on that piece of this, and I wouldn't mind it to be part of this policy, only because as good as this is in terms of us keeping us from needing to finance CIP stuff, it's still in addition to our tax levy at a very small amount, but look what we've done in the past, was it 8 years that we've had this in place? We're now raising $1 million a year on this. I would like to cap it at $2 million, and I know you suggested that when we get over that, maybe in our lifetime anyways, that we would continue but add to the CIP trust. Is that too specific for something to be added to this policy now?
I think we could put in, because there is language in here about our utilization of 1/10 of 2.5. We could put, if it's the wish of the, and I have no objections, because I think $2 million is where we should be and would be sufficient enough to meet our capital needs, although it's something we could address if in fact we're around in 8 years to say, you know what, maybe we need to amend it if in fact there's a need for more than $2 million, but I don't see that as a consideration right now. No, I don't have any objection to that.
Okay. I'll come back with something next week then
Okay.
on it, and maybe I'll have some friendly, I'll say, draft amendment to the policy on it. Were there any other questions on the policy itself? This was sort of recommended to us by the rating agencies, correct?
So although we had an informal debt policy, evident by the fact that we're using a portion of 2.5, we amended our general bylaws to amend the minimum from 5 to 10. So we're putting some of those capital items within the operational side of the budget. But some other things they would like to see, they'd like to see a high and a low debt limit, and that's why we chose a 2 to 10% of our operating budget, annual operating budget. With those limits, I think it demonstrates that we have parameters, we're not going to exceed those parameters. If there is a project that would catapult us over that 10%, the debt policy wouldn't allow it. So we're managing our debt as best we can. So I think this is something that the rating agencies has asked for, and we thought it would be a good opportunity to at least produce one in draft form, and we actually sent it to the rating, to S&P for our last rating. So we told them that it's currently before the board, it's going to the Finance Committee. We expect at some point adoption of the policy, maybe in a modified form, because we do respect your feedback relative to this. So this wouldn't be the final version, but we do expect some action on it probably within 60 to 90 days.
Good. And it's just common sense, and we've been, I guess, informally adhering to it anyways. Certainly just being fiscally sound.
Just some of the other provisions that we thought would give this some teeth is we want to retire our debt as soon as practical. We did go out for $1.4 million to close out the Auburn Middle School project. We're allowed to go out for 25 years. We went out for 15 years. It's things like that they want to see. So at times when we can do that, we will. There are callable provisions and refunding provisions that we want to exercise. We did that for the high school. We saved the taxpayers $3 million. That's built into the debt management policy. So when bonds are callable, we're going to look at the rates at the time it's callable. And if we see that there's a benefit to the town and save the town money, we're going to exercise that option. That's now formalized in this plan.
Okay.
Even though we did it before, we didn't have a formal plan. It's now part of a formal plan.
Right. Okay. Good. Good. Any other comments? Once again, I'd like comments from the full board, or most of the full board anyways, before we take a vote on this. That's fine. Kev, anything? Ed? Good with that? Okay. All right, we will revisit it. Sharon, can you just keep this on the agenda until we get to it? I'd want to take care of that as soon as possible also. Okay, so last item on the agenda is we had some minutes from 11/28 that were emailed to us. Any corrections? They look fine by me. Sharon, a lot of work on that. That was yeoman's work. Wow. Thank you very much. Anything else? So we're going to try for police and fire, Ed, next week. Fire, definitely. I know Chief Coleman is aware of that. And if the police can't come, then we'll work out something as soon as possible and get notice out to everybody on that. And if anyone has time off, time they're going to be away that they know about now, if you can let me know on that, just so I can kind of plan on what budgets you may want to look at, maybe some that aren't necessarily that important to you, just so we can cover them and get some good positive feedback on these. Great, okay. If there isn't anything else, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Thank you. Good night.